Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jake Valancourt with 10X Engineered Materials, and I'm joined by Steve Ritchie, also with 10X. We're going to be introducing a new product today. So with that, I'll hand the stage over to Steve. And Steve, thank you.
Well, welcome, everybody. As Jake said, I'm Steve Ritchie. I'm a co-founder of 10X, and I've been here since the beginning. And as he said, we have exciting news to share with all of you today. We've developed and are now launching a new product specifically for what we call heavy-duty applications. So like you, we're constantly learning about the science of blasting, the realities of blasting, and thinking about how to make something new and better. We talk about where market needs are and how we can better fill them. And as we talked about this, the most interesting opportunities seem to be these heavy-duty applications where the assets being maintained have extremely high value, like ships or storage tanks and pipelines. If you can bring something to help minimize the time these assets are out of service, you can change the game for the better for everyone involved, from the owner of the asset to the contractors doing the work. And blasting is one part of these large, complex jobs, but it's an important one. And it can often delay progress, but it also brings opportunities to compress the overall schedule and save costs well beyond the blasting tasks. And it gets these huge assets back to producing value sooner. So today, we're launching our third product line specifically for these heavy-duty applications, and it's called DynamiX. And it's different in several ways from our Kinetics and Epics lines of abrasives. It contains a higher fraction of coarse and angular particles. It gets about a 0.5 mil profile depth of additional profile depth compared to our coarsest Kinetics product. And most importantly, both our testing and the testing that we did with our customers in the field are showing that it brings just game-changing value in these tough industrial jobs and in a number of exciting ways. These are the applications we had in mind when we decided to start developing this product. And because these assets are so large and important, special care is used in maximizing their service life and in delaying the ever-present enemy called corrosion. They're coated with thick, high solids linings or even non-skid coatings that are tough to get off and have specific requirements for the replacement coating to be put on after the blasting's done. Inspections are detailed and rigorous. It can be difficult to sell an individual blast job after one blasting pass. Having to blast twice or more is essentially unplanned maintenance. It delays the overall schedule and increases overall costs for the whole project. And in just reducing abrasive consumption, if you can bring an abrasive in where you use significantly less, that impacts a whole number of costs. The abrasive costs, obviously, but there's lost time in vacuuming, that's minimized. Lost time in pot changes, that's minimized. The cleanup time and costs, the disposal costs. There's a whole bunch of costs that are just related to how much abrasive that you're going to need to finish one of these jobs. And if you get a complete blast in one pass and it's clean, has the right profile, you can extend the service life of these extremely high value assets without overusing the coating. And DynamiX does all of this. And this slide is, so what we did after we completed our internal testing is we realized, you have to go out and field test it. You have to see what it does in the real world. And so we worked with some of our trusted customers and asked them, hey, would you try this experimental product for us and see how it does? So in this particular application, this is a shipyard that Kinetics, changed everything for them. We doubled their profit on blasting. They loved the low dust. We dropped the consumption, their abrasive consumption, by a lot, from 40 tons a month to 7.5 tons on the same, production load. So we took this abrasive there. They used it. They did their measurements and evaluation, and DynamiX improved the performance even more. It was 23% faster than the Kinetics was, and dropped the consumption additional 20%, 27%. So it's making a big difference, and it's specifically because it's designed to excel in these tough jobs. So in another one of these shipyard applications, we were tested directly by our customer against Garnet. And after they finished and they measured their productivity increase of over 50%, he called and said, I don't know what you guys did, but this abrasive changes everything. And he basically said it's going to change his whole business for the better on both the revenue side and the cost side of his business. And similarly, we brought it to our rail customers, and we've been selling into the rail industry for Kinetics into the rail industry for years, and all blast jobs are interesting and complex. So there's just a lot to it. But the time and cost drivers in blasting rail cars have little to do with the car itself. It's the detailed work that drives the cost and abrasive consumption. Having to blaster under the car, on top of the car, from far away at shallow angles, removing heavy coatings and corrosions from different areas, like the wheel wells. There's pipes, ladders, railings, flanges. Those things drive the time and the amount of abrasive that's going to be needed to complete these jobs. And Kinetics had already had a massive impact for these customers in both productivity and consumption. But again, DynamiX beat it, and it beat it by a lot. We got significant improvements over what we had already accomplished. So as we've mentioned several times now, these are high stakes jobs. They involve large blasting teams with varying skill sets. They involve blasting in enclosed spaces and in hard to reach places. The abrasive, if you think about an ideal abrasive for these applications, the abrasive is helping the blasters. It's helping them, especially the inexperienced blasters. So it has to be forgiving. It has to work in the equipment that's available. It has to work under the blasting conditions that are available. And if you have all those things, you have enough versatility for any given blasting crew to be productive. And that was uppermost in our mind because we've learned, like everyone else, that blasting is a complex task and it's got a lot of variables. And we just wanted to have something that would work even when some of those variables weren't perfect. We wanted to make sure you know that there's nothing different about this material. It's still made from the same mineral wool byproduct as we make our other products. It's made from a material that's among the most toxicologically studied materials in history. If you've watched our videos, you've heard me say this many times. There isn't a single regulatory body in the world that considers this dust a possible human carcinogen because it's soluble in the lungs. It's easily and quickly cleared, and it doesn't cause chronic damage or diseases. And that's been confirmed by global authorities. It also isn't regulated for transportation or disposal, unless obviously it's contaminated with other materials when it's blasted. Whatever we did in developing this new product, sacrificing any of the value propositions that our products have been delivering for over 4 years was off the table. It had to bring all those things and more. And DynamiX has them all. It's low dust, it's low embedment. You're going to get high speed, low consumption, and that 10x clean and bright finish. And it will delay rust bloom, just like Kinetics and Epics. The TCLP is the same. It's totally clean, and it's not toxic to fish or wildlife. So that is the end of the presentation. As of today, DynamiX is on the market. You can contact us or your distributor for pricing. We look forward to working with new customers. Our mission is to provide you with breakthrough performance and to improve your overall business, and we'll do anything we can to make sure that happens. So I greatly appreciate all of you joining us today, and we'll be happy to answer questions, and we're probably going to get out of here a little early.
Thank you, Steve. I think we should go to a question first about air pressure. Maybe you want to go back to that slide just for a second, or not, but somebody was asking what air pressure do you need? So I think just talking a little bit about that for success with DynamiX and how that might be different from what folks might be used to with other 10x products.
Sure. So, recommended blasting pressures are, right around 100 PSI as an industry standard. And there's a rule of thumb that says that for every PSI below 100, you lose something like 1.5% of efficiency. One of the reasons with our products that we encourage customers to get above 100 PSI and even as high as 110 PSI is because the way the particles are made in the mineral wool process gives them impact strength. That's why they produce less dust. Fewer particles are breaking on impact with the surface. And because of that, raising the pressure a little more, the particles can withstand it. So you're going to get the increased productivity by virtue of the particles having more speed leaving the nozzle. So, the productivity continues to rise. What is different about DynamiX compared to the other products is that it has more angular content. It still has the same durability. It's not dusty, but it's got some larger particles that have more momentum leaving the nozzle than our other products. And that gives it the ability to perform better when the pressure is lower. So that's really the difference.
Another question, Steve, is to achieve an increase in productive output in most industrial settings, capital investment is required. What investment or investments are needed to adopt DynamiX?
Yeah, so when we sat down and we're just thinking about this, that was one of the objectives. I mean, one of the objectives is the abrasives got to contribute to the real world. And in the real world, the customer, the contractor has already made significant capital investments in the equipment that they have. Now, even with our other product lines, the capital requirement to get the performance out of our abrasives is typically very small. We might recommend a different metering valve. We might recommend a larger hose to preserve pressure. They're not large investments. Whatever capital, we want it to be zero. Our goal is to bring this product to you and require zero capital. Now, if we see something, you know, a glaring opportunity, we're going to tell the customer that if you just do this, you're going to get 5 or 10 more pounds of pressure. You're going to be, you know, more productive on a simple change. We always communicate those to customers when we see it. But the idea of this product is to have to do as little of that as possible.
Okay, thank you. We've got quite a few questions rolling in here. So I'm trying to prioritize because there's some that are repeat. So this one I've seen 2 or 3 times now. Has it been used or can it be used on high volume solid coatings? What about the interior of tank cars?
We tested it on some stout coatings. The interior of tank cars, it has not been tested on the interior of a tank car. And we have experience with those. They are difficult. What I expect to see is, we have no reason to think that it won't be productive inside a tank car, because even in our testing, while it wasn't the same linings that are on the inside of a rail car, we tested it on some stout stuff, 50, 60 mils of high solids, 100% solids marine coatings that were, cured for a good week before we blasted it back off again. And it just rips it right off. So I expect good performance, but we have not done the test yet.
Another question that we have is, what is the grit size or grit sizes of DynamiX?
Okay. So DynamiX right now, our heavy duty grade is one product. The largest particle is about 15 mesh. The smallest particle is about 100 mesh. So it's got a broad particle size distribution. And, just to be frank with everyone, we looked at the particle size distribution in a million different ways in developing this, because we wanted it to have the attributes of, one, aggressive penetration power to get through these difficult coatings quickly. We wanted it to have a full, clean profile in one pass. So you don't have to keep going back and forth over it and then move on. We didn't want we wanted a higher profile than we could get with our products, but we didn't want it to be too high. So the profile you'll get with DynamiX is anywhere from about 3.25 mil up to as high as maybe 4.5 mil, depending on the conditions, depending on your nozzle angle and other things. But it averages right in that range between 3.5 and 4 mil. So it's not for all applications. There are many applications in the blasting market that just don't want a profile that high, but these applications typically benefit from it. But it won't be much higher than that, what I just said.
We got a couple questions asking about the life expectancy of nozzles. And then someone else also asked, just in general, about consumables, life expectancy of consumables using DynamiX.
Because there's more angular content, it'll probably be wear a little faster than our other products do, but because other products are well known now for being very easy on consumables, and that's largely because it contains rounded particle content. Because DynamiX has a little bit more angular content, it's probably going to wear things a little bit faster. But I still think that the life of consumables is not going to be prohibitively short. It will still be long.
Someone's asked, is this a one and done media, meaning can it be recycled? And then someone else asked, can it be recycled in a manual grit blast room as well? So we got a couple questions on recycling and recyclability.
And the answer is yes. We expect this to be more recyclable Yeah, when you're looking at the durability of mineral particles, larger particles tend to be less durable than smaller particles. However, reclaiming and reusing abrasive is kind of an interesting dynamic, because if you cycle any mineral abrasive over and over without replacing it with new abrasive, at least in some percentage, your working mix, your average particle size will tend to decrease over time with any abrasive, with each cycle. In this case, with DynamiX, because there's this fraction of the product that's got a larger particle size, some of those particles are going to survive the first blast. Those that don't are still going to be well in the productive range of particle size. And we expect the working mix to remain larger than what it would have been, say, with our other products that don't have that coarse content. So we expect the ability to reuse the abrasive to improve with DynamiX.
That's a great answer. There's another question here on the profile. So I've just so everybody knows, if you want to download it, we've posted the safety data sheet. It's also on the 10X homepage. And if you go to the DynamiX product page, you can get the technical data sheet, but that's also been posted in this webinar. And someone sees that the range. Steve, I guess you might have said 3.5 to 4, but we list 4.25. It's possible to get more than 4 mils of profile with DynamiX. How does it compare to 2040? Is the question that somebody posed.
Yeah, I said it could be as high as 4.5. So,
okay,
because we've seen that, we've measured it, but it's rare. I mean, it's the 4.25 is a good expectation for the top of the profile range.
A couple people ask, what is the bulk density of DynamiX? And another question that was close to it is, how is it different? Meaning, is this a different product than mineral wool byproduct like Epix and Kinetics? And I think we already covered that, but
well, let's answer the question. It's fine. Sure. It is the same material. It's got a material density of about 2.8 specific gravity or grams per cc. Because there's a coarser fraction, it's going to have a little bit lower bulk density. There's going to be more space between the particles. So you're looking at, if our kinetics is right around 100 pounds per cubic foot, it's going to be something a little bit lower than that, probably between 95 and 100.
Yep. People are asking what the price difference between Kinetics and DynamiX is. Talk to your distributor or wherever you buy your 10X now. Our partners have their pricing, and we don't know what version of that product that the customer is asking about. Not all Kinetic products are priced the same either. So it's kind of a complicated question there, depending on what the scenario is. Somebody asked, is there a reason to believe that the cost of the abrasive can be offset by production in a case where the recovery and reuse is not practical or able to be recycled, meaning the abrasive being recycled with DynamiX?
Yes, it has covered the price difference, many times, even when replacing low cost slags. When you get 10X abrasives dialed in, and even if you're not reclaiming, you'll find that the metering valve setting, which essentially the feed rate of the abrasive into the blast hose, is quite low when the abrasive is most productive. And that just results in dramatically lower consumption. Because even if you're going the same speed, if you're at half or less feed rate coming out of the pot, you've already dropped consumption by 50%. And if you go faster, then it's even more. And we've reached as much as 80% in the field with customers. We don't promise 80%. That's not going to be achievable in every case, but we've gotten that high, and we expect at least 30% reduction, if not 50% reduction. And we're looking for that in every case.
A lot of our marine customers in the dry docks anyways are blasting with our products once and are not recycling it. And these customers have given us testimonials that we're saving them, above slag, which is a very low priced abrasive, that we're saving them a substantial amount of money in terms of cost per square foot or just from boat to boat. We have another question here. Someone said that you mentioned it is water soluble. What effect does humidity have on DynamiX? So if you could just address that one real quick, Steve.
Yep. That's actually we have to make sure that this is clear. It's not water soluble. It's a rock, just like it's a mineral material. It's just made from molten rock in the mineral process. When we say that it's soluble, what we're saying is that the dust particles that you might breathe if you're exposed to the dust are soluble. They dissolve in lung fluids. And because they dissolve, they don't stay in the lung for extended periods of time. They're cleared rapidly from your lungs through natural processes. Much better. Other abrasives have not done as well in the kinds of tests that mineral wool dust has been exposed to or have been subject to. So that's the reason it's safe, is because it doesn't spend any time in your lungs.
We have somebody asking, do you have a faster result with DynamiX at 100 psi compared to Kinetics 2070 at 120 psi? And they might have been talking about one of these slides here, probably this one right here. Do you want to just cover that, Steve?
I honestly don't know the answer to that question. I don't want to say something that we haven't measured yet. I guess I would just go back to the field trials that we presented today that suggest that under similar conditions, real world conditions, it did quite well. But we just haven't done that yet. I'd be interested to see it myself.
Yeah, on this slide that we're on now, I know that the Kinetics compared to DynamiX, both were blasted at the same nozzle pressure. So they didn't change the nozzle pressure at all between the two products that they tested on that day. Someone else asked, at 110 psi, what is the expected profile achieved?
Yeah, I would think at 110 psi, that's where we measured as high as 4.5. So I would think at a pressure like that, you're going to be 4+ profile.
So a couple of people have asked what metering valve style or styles we've tested in, and which is found to be most effective with DynamiX, if it's any different from the other 10X products.
It's not different. We recommend plunger style valves as opposed to, gate type, the flat valves. The flat valves tend not to meter as sensitively or as well, especially at low abrasive feed rates. The plunger style valves actually have a nice linear progression of the valve opening. Well, not the valve opening. The valve opening is not linear, but the flow rate of the abrasive is pretty linear in these plunger. And I'm talking like a Thompson style valve, or like the Schmidt TerraValve or microvalves. They all have a circular opening in the metering sleeve inside the valve, and the plunger just goes through the sleeve and exposes that hole as you open the valve. And it meters quite well at lower valve settings. So we always recommend those plunger style valves.
I think this is just actually a repeat question, but is there a reason to believe the product can't be recovered and reblasted? So no. Yeah, the product is recyclable, and if you're recycling your abrasive now, the equipment that you're using is very likely to be able to recycle our product. We find that customers have to often adjust the air wash when they adopt our abrasive, if they're not already using a 10X product. There's often a density difference between our abrasive and others. But yes, the product is recyclable. And then we have a few people, Steve, who've asked this question, which is, what is the average strip rate? And I never have fully understood when somebody asks that question, what do they mean? Because every coating is different. Different substrates might even get different results. But any comments on that in terms of what's our average strip rate or square footage?
Yeah, so you're right. It really depends on the application. I'm not sure this is the product for, mill scale, but it depends on the coating you're going to put on after you blast the mill scale, and what surface conditions you need for the coating that's going to be put on what you're blasting. But the reason I'll say that it's quite fast, I mean, we'd be disappointed at 500 square feet an hour on mill scale. And the reason is because there's enough small particles in there to get the coverage. The one thing on mill scale and on thin coatings that you want for speed is coverage. You want that blast pattern to form immediately. So you have to have enough particles coming out of the nozzle to hit every part of that surface as quickly as possible. And DynamiX has that. Now, as the coatings get thicker and higher solids, the speed depends on how high solids and how much coating is on there. So it could be on a typical, say, 8 to 12 mil epoxy. We expect to be north of 300 square feet an hour, and possibly well north. We've hit as high as 780 on that kind of a coating. Once you get to the like the 18 mil ship hull coating with a zinc primer underneath it, or you get inside some of these tanks, whether it's inside of a ship, say a ballast tank, or you're inside of a rail car, and the coatings are even thicker than that, you can get into 30, 40 mil coatings. Certainly it's going to slow down, but we're getting, really good numbers, over 200 square feet an hour, when, it's common to be well under 100 square feet an hour in those applications. So it's quite fast, but it depends on the job, depends on the coating you're removing.
Steve, I think we've answered most of the questions here. We've got a few more, but we're starting to go a little over the target time here. So I'm going to try to wrap this up. I thank everybody for coming on. Steve, you got any final thoughts you want to leave everyone with?
I just hope everybody's as excited as we are. This looks like it could really help a lot of you out there, and we hope that you will give it a try. We'll give all we have to making it work for all of you. So I'll leave everybody with that thought.
Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.